Thursday night football tonight, and it's actually looking like a very strong game. You got the Bills visiting the Dolphins, some injury stuff to talk about, a lot to get into this one. And of course, today on this showdown video, what I'm going to do that's different from anything else you're going to see on YouTube is I'm going to look at the projections and the ownership projections. I'm also going to run the solver, one of the top products out there, to help build showdown lineups. I'm going to check Stochastic, their sims as well. At the end, I'm going to build the lineup here on stream using all that data that we put together. At the end, you'll have 3 takeaways to build more unique lineups tonight. Let's get into it. I'm rusty. I didn't do a stream yesterday. Well, I guess a stream on here. I did do a stream last night with our pal Neil Orfield, Jake Tribby as well. 2 of my peers now at Fantasy Points, but did the cage match video, the old Al Zeidenfeld concept. It was a lot of fun hanging out with Neil. Got some sick burns on Neil yesterday in that one as well. So check that out if you have the time. Best damn showdown show. I hope so. I've been hot. I even had Jordan Mason in the lineup on Monday before we knew that he was going to be the most important play in the slate. So feel pretty good about it. Let's get it going this one in a game today where we have 23 implied points for the Bills, according to the Vegas totals. Miami, 25.5 implied points. Projections on this one, no surprise to see Tyreek Hill up top, according to Stochastics data, about a 2x value, even though he is the highest salaried player in the slate at 11.6. Josh Allen at number 2, 11K salary, 21-point projection on him. So these 2 guys going to come up a lot. I would still think Tyreek comes up the most, but neither representing a much greater value than the other. So both guys, I imagine, will come up a good amount equally. We got Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle, James Cook here. So a bit of a range in projections. Once you get to Waddle, it becomes a much flatter tier. Of course, Devon Achane banged up. Seems like he'll be going. Raheem Mostert out for this one. So one key thing to note right away, last week, Mostert went out, hurt his shoulder. I think was the initial report, chest/shoulder, came out of that game. Jeff Wilson immediately comes in. Now, one thing people may think is this is because Jalen Wright, the rookie coming in from Tennessee, he was inactive week 1. That's why Jeff Wilson plays. No, it was in fact a thing in the preseason where Jeff Wilson was also playing ahead of Wright there. So Wright can score some points right on Stochastics projections. Let's see where he is. He's at a 3-point projection, so Stochastic is with me on this, though Jeff Wilson not much better at 5.4. Point being is I think out of these 2 guys, Jeff Wilson is the more logical play who should have a role from the jump, from drive 1. Jalen Wright can still hit if he's active for tonight's game. I assume he will be, but he's more likely the contingent value guy they mix in for some plays. Definitely could take some Achane plays potentially if Achane is banged up, but I would say the more likely play to have success to be on the field from drive 1 would be Jeff Wilson taking some of those, power run kind of plays, something like that. Other things to note here in the projections. Defense, Dolphins, Bills defense is neither projected as good values. Price points, 3K, 4K. I think on a slate like this where people expect it to be a shootout, I find defense to be more valuable than usual. I would say those guys are in play. The top values overall, according to Stochastics projections, which aren't industry standard, for the most part, projections across the industry end up pretty close to flat. Obviously, little bits of difference between them sometimes. I think Stochastic ends up representing the field pretty well. Grant Dubose here, and I have the underdog sticker up. I should put up Stochastics. 15% off on Stochastics data, by the way, guys. Check the link in the description or use promo code SPLASH at Stochastic if you want to get their data, their tools. They do a great job with all of it, and all of that supports the show as well. So please help me have a good September in affiliate fees, which helps me put on the show here. Grant Dubose is a guy whose name is not going to be mentioned very much around the industry. Miami also ran receiver. He has an 8.5x projection as value. Might come up a little bit of the sim with that. Robbie Chosen, again, kind of a nothing play here that I feel like might not be active, but he is at 1.1 projection here. Alec Ingold, Julian Hill, Braxton Berrios. So all Miami cheap guys are the plays here, with Berrios being the one guy who kind of has a role. Last week, Berrios, 26 snaps, 15 routes, so wasn't good with it. Actually had a negative 2.4 EPA per pass thrown his way on his 2 intended touches. So Berrios wasn't good, but he did get a good amount of work. That's something to note when you are seeing him pop up as one of the top values. Check the chats here. Got some GMs. Can't see this being a high-scoring affair. I don't know why you would say that, Tim, given the fact that there's a pretty good total on it. Granted, it's not above 50, but 48.5 in the modern NFL, the last few years, it's a pretty good number to have on it. So I think every expectation is that this game will be a shootout. So if you think it's not going to be a shootout, playing into that angle more is going to be a more logical thing to do. Showdown ownership, let's go over here. Against stochastic ownership, we'll look at ETR's ownership in a moment as viewed through the solver. We got Josh Allen projected to be the top owned guy by stochastic, 68% ownership overall going his way. Tyreek Hill, number 2, 65.8%, so rounded up 66 basically. Tyreek, though, expected to be more owned than captain with 24% ownership there, compared to 19% for Josh Allen, which usually you don't see go that way. Usually the top owned guy overall is the top owned captain, especially too if that guy's the highest dollar guy and is a guy like Tyreek. But in this case, seems like they're projecting a little more captain ownership, a little bit less than the flex. So maybe that's one way to get different. Tua going to be third highest owned according to stochastic, 61%. Pretty big jump as well. 61% for him compared to 45% for the next guy, Jalen Waddle. And only 7% for Tua at captain. Like Tua doesn't run. He only ran one time last game. Same bullshit he pulled last year. He's not that good at it. He doesn't run willingly very often. But Tua double stacked maybe as the captain at under 7% ownership when he's going to be that highly owned in the flex. Kind of interesting thought process, if nothing else. Jalen Waddle, 45%, 13% of captain projected for him. So pretty highly owned for a guy that doesn't excite me a ton at captain, especially if you're playing Tyreek. Devon Achane, number 5, 45% ownership, 11% at captain for him. He had the great usage in the pass game last week. 7 catches, I believe he had. Where are my numbers for him? 7 catches on 7 targets. EPA of 0.5 per target. Was less good in the run game. But he still had 17 10 touches overall. They were trying to give him the ball basically 46% of the time that he was on the field. And James Cook, not too far behind these guys as well. Honestly, an interesting play. James Cook had 3 goal line touches last week. So not too bad ownership on him. Single digits for him. Let's go to the lower owned guys here. So guys under 10%, let's say. Jeff Wilson projected for 20%-ish. So that's going to be it. Sanders, 20.8%. Jalen Wright, 6%. So I would say going to Achane and Wilson, to me, cuts that ownership product down pretty well. Wilson at captain with his projection does not look very good, but it's a play you can make if you're assuming that Wilson is going to be full go and Achane would be limited. I don't think Achane's going to be full go in as much as I think that they're going to give him the workload he would have gotten. And then Mostert role kind of just becomes Wilson / maybe a little bit of Jalen Wright. But I think Achane's going to be used enough, but I don't think he gets I don't think he absorbs the Mostert role, basically. I think he keeps what he would have had anyway, maybe slightly less because of the injury. And then the rest of that goes to Wilson and then this amount for Wright. So that's how I'm viewing it tonight, but certainly you can disagree. If Achane somehow absorbs the entire role, then obviously Wilson would be less valuable, Wright would be less valuable. Mac Hollins ran a lot of routes last week. Where was he at? I actually have to update him in my sheets. Yeah, Mac Hollins, though, I'm not going to have that route number here because I didn't change his stuff on my back end. As I mentioned yesterday, I had to catch up with a lot of the different data. And one of the things I have to update as well is for guys who moved in free agency. And I don't have Mac Wilson on Buffalo. Let's see if we're going to do this really fast because I think his route count's actually kind of important to note. All right, Buffalo. Did I say Mac Wilson? I think I'm saying Mac Hollins. Sorry. I'm trying to do too many things at once. Mac Hollins. So Mac Hollins last week, 36 snaps. How many routes did he run? 36 snaps, 17 routes, 1.65 EPA per target. God. All right. So really efficient last week, but didn't earn targets at a high rate, only a 12% target per out run. Mac Hollins, kind of interesting to me. I think is not an insane captain play either at 1,600. Not a great projection on Wilson on Hollins, I presume. See Hollins projection. Yeah, Hollins projected for 4.2 points by stochastic. But I would say Mac Hollins, to me, another player kind of like Jeff Wilson. The role is probably underpriced for what it should be in this game. Obviously, for Jeff Wilson, he's priced that way because they didn't know that Mostert was going to be out until now, until yesterday, but the prices were already in. For Mac Hollins, he really did have starter level work. Some of that could be because of a slow ramp up for Curtis Samuels coming off the turf toe. But I do think Hollins, if he's going to be this low owned, he got legit usage last week. Samuel too, higher price tag, but I think he's a play if Hollins were to fail. Didn't get a lot of routes last week, which I think is the main point of concern if you are going to go to Curtis Samuel. Last week, Samuel had just 17 snaps, 9 routes. So he would need to really increase that. For comparison's sake, Keon Coleman led the team with 27 routes on 45 snaps. Khalil Shakir had 20 routes on 33 snaps. Dalton Kincaid, 25 routes, 52 snaps. So a little bit less for Samuel and Hollins, but for Hollins, you're getting him at 1,600. So And I think Curtis Samuel would be kind of a pay up to be contrarian. Holland Smead just seems too cheap and too low owned, which maybe does make him higher owned by the time that slates actually kick off. I think Holland's had at least one red zone target. I can actually check that. Let's see. Mac Hollins. He looks like he did, yeah. One red zone target. Actually, had a touchdown. He had a red zone touchdown. So, yeah, Mac Hollins, 1,600 just doesn't make sense at that price point, I think. Besides that, other low-owned guys, Julian Hill, I think is a playable guy. Grant Dubose, we talked about, had a lot of value on him based on the projection. I don't know if that'll hold up by the time he actually gets a lock. Alec Ingold, I think could, boy, we're really digging deep here early. Alec Ingold, 29 snaps last week. They tried to give him 2 touches. He's not out of play. I think there are some low-owned guys you can go to is really the main way to sum this up here. What configuration you go to them, that's going to be up to you. We'll see what the Sims and what the optimizer gives us. But for right now, I would say like a couple guys here do stand out. And Jalen Wright too, for what it's worth. 6%. Smythe is still getting some amount of reps. Yeah, Smythe had 30 snaps, 9 routes compared to Jonnu, 20 snaps, 14 routes. There's a lot of guys you can go to for cheap here. So I think it would not shock me if tonight there's a solo winner of the Millie Maker. It would basically be the main thing I think I should sum this up with. I was looking at some of the ownership here. Let's go to the solver, though. Of course, so let's change our little button here. So go check out the solver. Get promo code SPLASH on there. Link in the description as well if you want to check out the solver. No promo on that because they value their tool too much. But it's basically like $30 for yourself. You can get in there, get simulation tools and optimizer tools. It's a really good deal. And I use the optimizer here on stream to kind of get a read on stuff. But I've been building my lineups myself via the solver, simming stuff out. And I've had every slate be profitable so far. So that's been, that's not like the biggest brag in the world, but for what it means in NFL DFS at the beginning of the year, very happy with those results. We're going to go with an unencumbered crunch here, an unencumbered solve, I guess, since we're not using Fantasy Cruncher anymore. We'll see what it gives us because this will tell us basically what the math is going to drive people to the most. Got no settings on. I'm just making sure of that. So let's read the optimal here first, then we'll go into it more. I should do that. Should make sure to have a process here every video if we're doing it live. We got Tua as captain, Tyreek Hill, Josh Allen, Devon Achane, Jeff Wilson, and then Braxton Berrios. So we're getting a Miami 5-1 as the optimal lineup. So right now, that'd be the lineup that theoretically, if you're just going to play one for cash, that's the one you would play. Let's go down, though, and see the results of the sim, or the crunch, rather. The optimization would be the best way to put it. So you get, okay, so right now you're getting Tyreek in every lineup, Allen in every lineup, Tua in every lineup. You're getting 20% Tua captain, 36% Allen captain, 24% Tyreek captain. So right away, when you see 3 guys coming up in an optimizer without any sort of settings on it, that tells you that basically the math is going to drive every lineup to have these guys. So if tonight, if you play Tyreek, if you play Josh Allen, if you play Tua, you need to do something really low owned alongside that. So that could be, let's say, flipping it to a Buffalo 5-1. That could be playing 1 or 2 of those under 10% owned guys. But you have to do something really different or else you're going to be in one of those 100, maybe even 300 lineup trains. This should be a pretty popular showdown tonight. So Tyreek, Josh Allen, Tua, they come up everywhere. Just got to note that right away. Jeff Wilson coming up a lot as a value as well with the ETR projections. So that's seemingly something worth noting as well. Achane coming up a good amount as well, 76% of the time. So a lot of Wilson, a lot of Achane, a lot of Tua, a lot of Tyreek, all coming up together. So if you were to play the Bills onslaught, you're getting different. All the builds in the top 25 are either 5-1 Dolphins, 4-2 Dolphins, or 3-3 Dolphins. So once again, you build 4-2 Bills, you build 5-1 Bills, you're getting off the beaten path because the math is not going to like automatically put people there. And people don't often think enough in showdowns in terms of like 5-1 builds, 4-2 builds, 3-3s. Like basically when you build away from where everybody else is kind of just being forced to as a default, you're just going to be on a much smaller pool. Now, obviously, the projections are pushing people towards more Dolphins than not. That means the projections say that. But you kind of saw on Monday, we talked about the same thing with the Jets and the Niners, where the Jets weren't really good plays in that game. Obviously, they ended up having 3 guys in the lineup at the end of it just because of how the math of it all worked, especially Jordan Mason being in there. But I think if that had been a McCaffrey game, I don't think it would have worked out that exact same way mathematically. So the Jets were kind of a team that I expect them to get their ass kicked. They got their ass kicked. But the projections were saying play a lot of Jets. For today, I don't feel that way about the Dolphins. I don't think the Dolphins get their ass kicked. If anything, I think it's at least very likely they win. They're the favorite by 2.5 points. But I think in this game, though, you're going to benefit because it's a close enough game. Buffalo, maybe a little bit underappreciated right now. if you play the Buffalo win, you play the Buffalo dominant win. People are not going to be there as much as they probably would be normally. To a captain never feels good. I get that. Do both snaps would increase with one more week of learning the offense? I guess. I don't think that's. I mean, I think it's more Malik Washington not being able to go would be a part of that. But I don't know. The DeBose thing I don't think is really a play, but the projections will put you there a little bit, I guess. Let's run a simulation of this stuff real fast. Let me put in my default settings on here. Import settings, showdown. So for this one, what I'm going to do is basically I make it so I leave a little bit of salary on the table to build the best lineups out of that. Again, we do have some stacking and correlation going where if I'm playing a captain QB, we're boosting wide receivers and tight ends. RB is a little bit less so. Playing a captain wide receiver, boosting the QB. Playing a captain tight end, boosting the QB. That's basically the core settings I'm doing here. And we'll leave it so it can get whatever kind of lineups it wants. Let's put on some variants. Let's do it high so it'll go faster. 300 lineups. Optimize them out. We'll do the stochastic sim after this one. Again, the solver, a great tool. I've been having a lot of fun with it. As I've said a few times on here, my personal review would be, if you want a tool that's going to give you really good lineups without you having to think about it too much, you can just kind of look at the numbers, can pick stuff out. I'd use stochastic tool. I think it makes it really simple for that. If you want to have a little more control over your optimization, you want to kind of pick lineups out, maybe lock a guy in, build 300, 500 lineups, and then simulate those against ETR's team-created pool, where they basically create their own pool of lineups that's supposed to represent each tournament. I think the solver is a really cool tool. I've had a lot of fun using it so far. I think they both have different merits. I like both, but I think for me, you know, as somebody that wants a little more control, a little more hand on the wheel, I really like the solver. So that's the best ad I can give them. Get link in the description. Check it out. Supports the show, as you guys know. Keep it up, Spy. I have to. I think I have to finish the stream, but I appreciate Dylan. Appreciate you guys all tuning in here. Of course, if you're new to the channel, while we finish the simulation, please subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Of course, I do these streams Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. every day. Sundays at 9 a.m. as well for a final cram for the main slate. It's very similar to this one, so check that out. I shouldn't say final cram because I think that's Pete's branding. I give my final takes is what I call it here. All right, let's simulate this. We'll just do 300. Let's see. We've got the Million Maker. Yes. 177,000 entries in the Million Maker today. And we're going to simulate them out. Let's get this window back to its normal size. There we go. Again, this is a real process in real time. Obviously, I'm doing this live. So hopefully you get an idea of what the actual process looks like here. And of course, you'll get an idea of what the lineups look like in a moment. I'm excited to see this one. I feel like the solver might give us something real weird. Not that stochastic won't, but sometimes the solver gives you something and you're like, that makes so much fucking sense, but I was not thinking about it this specific way. Like it's been a thing I've seen with the solver sim a good amount lately, including all the Jaden Daniels we had last week. 4-2 Bills won't be played much. Playing at night takes away a lot of the Dolphins' September home field sun. I think you're reading a little too much in that one, Bree, but I appreciate you going that extra mile for it. But of course, appreciate Bria Bunch here, one of our members. Did one of the best jobs coming along in best ball season, so I'm excited to see how he does this year. Hopefully, going well. I know it's going well for him so far, based on what he's told me. All right, so sim wise here, top lineups. This is okay. Wow, sim ROI. So I have not seen a sim ROI this high. So this one must finish up top a decent amount, I guess. Almost 3% of the time, this one is finishing in the top 1% of lineups. And it's really finishing incredibly highly. So Tua at captain, Josh Allen, Tyreek Hill, Julian Hill, Achane, Jeff Wilson. How Julian Hill cannot be this much of a play, right? Julian Hill last week, he played 42 snaps. I did not realize he played that many snaps. 42 snaps. 10 routes, targeted 10% of the time he's running a route. 0.18 EPA per target. He wasn't dead when he was targeted. Didn't get targeted in the red zone. Julian Hill, solver loves him. So that lineup, that's a really high ROI. Honestly, a lot of these have really high ROIs. 4-2 Dolphins build. Waddle, Allen, Achane, Dolphins, Ty Johnson, and Tua Tagovailoa. I'd probably prefer Ray Davis, but they're basically the same play. Feels like it's super duped with Julian Hill. I don't know what the salary on it is. Can I see that over here? You can't see the salary on them on this screen easily, unfortunately. But it would just comes down to what the salary is. If that leaves enough money on the table, I think it'd be less duped. But if it's like if it's 50K, it's probably going to be duped a good amount. And also, you know, the solver does account for dupes as well. So important to keep that in mind. This one's interesting. Shakir at captain, Achan, Tua, James Cook, Julian Hill again, Josh Allen. Julian Hill. This is too much Julian Hill. I think if you're playing solver lineups tonight, I would really watch out for the amount of Julian Hill you get. Feels like you're walking into a little bit of a buzzsaw where the sims know that he got a lot of work in the play-by-play sim, which I believe is how the solver does theirs. They're probably seeing Julian Hill in the field a lot. As a result, he gets into the box score more than it probably seems. Not a bad play or anything because he's coming up a lot here with really high ROIs. But I feel like these Julian Hill lineups, I would almost want to throw away right away because like they're too obvious. And too repeated. We just talked about it, Mr. Popinski. We got this one, I guess, without Julian Hill would be the best one overall then that we just read. Another 5-1 without Julian Hill of Tua, Josh Allen, Tyreek, Waddle, Jonnu Smith, and Berrios. So I like this one because you're getting direct leverage on Julian Hill. The fact that he's going to be highly owned, it seems, at least for people playing ETR. So Tua with a triple stack, actually a quadruple stack. No RBs as well, drops the ownership. You should get the idea, though, of what makes for a high ROI lineup, what makes this be something where a solver kind of tool would think that they could do well, is that basically you're leaving out kind of highly owned components here and playing a different narrative where a lot of lineups are going to end up with Achan and Jeff Wilson. And this is one of the things I like the most about the solver, where it's going to give you a lot of lineups with Achan, going to give you a lot of lineups with Jeff Wilson. Then it'll give you one where it's like, okay, this outcome completely fucking doesn't hit. This one hits instead, where Tua is just going nuts throwing the ball. I think it's pretty appealing. I think the most appealing is going to be going to more Bills. Something like this one where Allen at QB, Achan, Julian, wish this were Tyreek. I feel like I'd feel better about it. But like a Bills heavier build, a 4-2, Allen, Achan, Julian Hill, Kincaid, Coleman, Cook. Like these kind of builds make sense. I think Allen at captain to me feels like the move, but we'll see what we get in a hand build here. Anyway, that's basically it. Lowest ROI one just for fun, according to the solver. Mac Hollins at QB, a little bit surprise, or at captain rather. Bit of a surprise there, but Mac Hollins, Tyreek, Achan, Waddle, Ty Johnson, Josh Allen. According to the solver, that's the one that's least likely to hit and also not going to cash very often. But probably also means that nobody will play this lineup from ETR. So that's the game theory, the tournament theory of it all. Let's go to Stochastic now. Let's update our banners. We're producing here. We're going to do on Stochastics, we're going to build 10,000 lineups. Those 10,000 lineups will then compete 10,000 times against each other in a competition that's meant to simulate the pool. So a little bit different than the solver, but still fundamentally similar enough. And of course, these are the two main sites out there. It's these two and SaberSim that I would say are the ones where there's a lot of lineups in a field that are going to be played by those sites. So I think they're important parts of the process here, part of why I look at both of them here on stream before I build my last lineup. Kind of surprised by the lack of Josh Allen at captain. He's going to be so highly owned, but I think it's one of those things where he's going to be very highly owned, and also what do you get in certain configurations with him probably, I would think would be the reason why. Allen captain with Miami Onslaught. It's interesting. That kind of stuff doesn't hit as often as you think, but I think it makes sense in this kind of build. Allen, I expect to control a lot of the work overall. I mean, in week one, let's see what he had. He had 5 red zone rushes in week one. That is a lot. That's more than most RBs who are elite RBs. Like that's more than Kyron Williams had. That's more of that. I'm not going to rerun it at this point. I appreciate the demand, but we have to move the show forward. But you can do that for yourself on the solver. In fact, there's a link in the description to do that. But yeah, I would say for me, Josh Allen, it's hard to imagine him not hitting a captain, but obviously that's part of the game here. If he doesn't hit a captain, you're going to be away from the field a little bit more. All right, so here's all our lineups here. Again, pool exposure is going to match basic stochastics ownership projections. Oh, wait, this is the main slate. I'm an idiot. Sorry. We got to do it again. Generate lineups. Why is it not allowing me to generate? Hold on, guys. Come on, Stochastic. Let's refresh. I'm getting paid the price for not looking at the Julian Hill list lineups, I suppose. All right, here we go. All right, now we're going to get it right. Hey, there we go. This guy knows what he's doing, producing live shows. A quick plug again for the stream I did last night with Neil Orfield, Jake Tribby over on the Fantasy Points channel. Check it out on YouTube. I should actually see. This is going to take long enough that I could probably pull up the link. But give that a watch. Give it a like too. Just show them that I matter because, Fantasy Points, I'm new over there, doing a little bit of stuff. And I would like them to think that I have value and pay me more money so that I can make this entire world work for myself. But here, I'm dropping the link in chat. Check it out if you have some time. Go Birds giving us his PIN number if you want to go check that out for yourself. All right, here we go. Now we're simulating. Now we're cooking. What percent to first today? That might be helpful to know. It's usually 25%. No, it's more than that. Okay, so 22. All right, so we're talking about the highest setting here. So 30% to first. Run contest sim here. Let's see what we get from Stochastic. Oh, it's an order number? Okay, there you go. So nothing good. You and Neil are a good take. Think I was consciously watching baseball. Thank you. Okay, I'll take it. It was a lot of fun. I really got to roast Neil, which was fun. He's a good sport. I enjoy hanging out with Neil a lot. And Jake, too. Jake Kirby, very sharp guy. I feel like I hadn't had a lot of crossover. I feel like the Fantasy Points guys kind of a separate part of the industry than like where I've been at Stochastic, where Neil's been as well. But it was a lot of fun hanging with those guys. Really do think all the Fantasy Points guys so far really impressed me. Obviously, I'm sucking up a little bit because of the fact I'm doing a column there once a week. And again, that should be coming out tonight as well. Have to write it this afternoon. But my props column, talk about my favorite bets and someone's using their tools. Some I'm going to pull out from the back of my ass. I'll tell you what, this week, I did not hit on my Jaden props last week. Had passing touchdowns for him. McLaurin over 100 yards. So my long shots are going to be less long shotty for that column this week. But I'll give you guys that link tomorrow once it's live. Tomorrow, of course, I'll do the same process for the main slate. And after that, we'll do my premium video for the members only, my data deep dive here where I go through all the data I look at for places like Fantasy Points, Sports Info Solutions, Pro Football Reference. I put it all together into one sheet and try to highlight the matchups that matter the most. All right, so Miami 5-1 is the highest ROI lineup according to Stochastic. Tyreek, Kincaid, Achane, Dolphins D. I really like Dolphins D in lineups, so I think that's going to be part of my build here. The Dolphins D, Jonnu Smith, Tua Tagovailoa. That's that team. That's the highest ROI one right now. Bills, Miami 3-3. So this one is not a Miami onslaught. Interesting to note, though, that the Miami onslaught's coming up really easily. And that despite that, both sims do think that Miami onslaught's still a good play. Normally, to me, at a certain point, I think you start to see, let's flip it back the other way. But right now, projection-wise, there's just too much of a differentiation in projection and some of the price points. Skip back to the beginning, bud. We did ownership in the beginning. And I'll put timestamps after the video's end. Jalen Waddle, Dalton Kincaid, Dolphins, Keon Coleman, Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill is this one. So Waddle, captain. I really feel like if you play Waddle at captain, I'd be more inclined to fade Tyreek. But Tyreek could still make a lineup even if Waddle hits as a captain. So I get that one, but that's a more unique captain up top. Here's when we're getting Buffalo having more guys in the lineup, but Buffalo 4-2. We have Dalton Kincaid, Bills D, Dolphins D, James Cook, Josh Allen, and Tyreek. Playing both defenses on the slate will absolutely make you unique. I don't know how likely that is to hit, but you're playing a low-scoring outcome kind of thing here where Kincaid would be the captain anyway. So I think that'd be the logic in this one. Both defenses, I think, would be tough to put into the lineup unless you're going blindly on the Sims. And if you do go blindly with the Sims, that's sort of how you should do it to some extent. But obviously, if you know enough, you could then kind of finesse it a little bit more. Not a lot of Buffalo dominant ones here. I'm looking for another Buffalo 4, Buffalo 5. Here's another Buffalo 4. Tyreek captain, Bills D, Dalton Kincaid, Jason Sanders, Josh Allen, Keon Coleman. So your only Dolphins in this one are Tyreek at captain and Jason Sanders kicking, which kind of makes sense. Basically a game where they're either punching it in with Tyreek or they're getting stalled out in the red zone. RBs don't get there as a result. Still would probably want to play Achane, Wilson more than not, but obviously you're getting much less ownership not playing those guys at all. And Tua, same thing. Yeah, it's basically that. Bills 5-1. All right, here's a Bills 5-1. Kincaid at captain. So Bills dominant builds seem to be pushing Kincaid at captain more. Kincaid at captain, Bills D, Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir, Tyler Bass, and Tyreek Hill. So star receiver as the bring back in your 5-1, that makes sense. Leaving $1,600 in salary on the table, that makes sense. It's the kind of build that I would play tonight, especially in a Millie Maker. Playing the 5-1, Buffalo shuts them down. You're getting the defense in this one, getting kicker as well, which both those do hit a lot in onslaught kind of builds, and just getting away from Miami entirely. If you play a Buffalo ass kicking and Buffalo does lay down an ass kicking, you're going to be on a pretty unique path. So I don't hate that one very much. There's also Miami onslaught as much as Buffalo is so concentrated on Allen. I think it's that the Miami guys are too cheap and then their projections are too good, because it still wouldn't matter if the Bills had good enough projections, but it's fundamentally the same thing, I guess. Let's favorite all top 150 here. I can take requests on captain if you guys want, but we're running a little bit late here. I try to keep the videos at like a half hour if I can. Player ROIs that are the highest right now. We got Dalton Kincaid, Tyreek Hill, and Kincaid at captain for what it's worth. Tyreek Hill at captain, Dolphins D in the flex, Jonnu Smith in the flex, Bills at captain, Robbie Chosen at captain, Tua Tagovailoa at captain. So those are your top ROI lineups right now. The Dolphins D in the flex, I would note, though, because I feel like Allen fucking up here. So one thing I'll point out, Miami last week blitzed at a 40% rate, should be one of the higher marks of the league, especially compared to last year. That'd be top 3 in the league overall for the course of the season. But a 40% blitz rate by them. They got pressure 16% of the time, which is pretty good. Could be better, but they got pressure enough. Josh Allen last week was like awful under pressure. Probably so awful that he can't be this awful for an entire year, but a negative 2.9 EPA per pressured play. Was only pressured 23% of the time, so it didn't hit him that much, but a 7% sack rate as well. Things fell apart for him under pressure. So I think the Dolphins getting a touchdown at home on defense is very live to me on an Allen fuck up. And I think I'm going to handle my lineup in a moment. We'll sim it on Stochastic as well. But that to me is the kind of build where I think you go Allen at captain, you still play Dolphins D. I think that's something that'll drop the ownership down a little bit. Worry about a request here. I try to do a little bit of everything here, but sometimes it goes a little bit slower than it should, especially when I have to run the sim twice because I'm an idiot. Let's look at we'll look at Josh Allen captain. Maybe I'll just make it members only can give me requests, but we know Justin well enough. I'll give him one. Josh Allen. All right, top Josh Allen captain one leaves 1,100 on the table. It is a Buffalo 5-1 as well. This, again, 5-1 Buffalo, Allen captain. That all checks out. Allen, Kincaid, Keon Coleman, Shakir, Matt Collins, Tyreek. This is not the kind of 5-1 you usually really want to play. Especially, so like the Bills D would theoretically have to make a lineup in a 5-1 if the Bills dominate and nobody besides Tyreek Hill makes a lineup for Miami. So there's a little bit of a logical flaw in that one. The second part is that it's really hard for Josh Allen to sustain 4 pass catchers. So that's a little bit lofty. I don't think this is a great one, but the Sims sometimes do reward more correlation than not, because more correlation theoretically gives you a higher upside, and then it does sort of chop away ownership. So I get why this would come up in a sim play. I don't think it's actually a play that I would want to do, and that's sort of why we talk about the eyeballing. Oh, thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. All right, so it all came out in the wash here. Shout out Justin for the super chat. I appreciate it. Other Josh Allen ones. Let me see if I can find one that I actually do think is more playable. So this kind of 5 want to be more playable. Again, more likely to get duped, 49.5 salary. But let's see what we got. Allen at captain, Bills D, Curtis Samuel, Dalton Kincaid, Tyler Bass, Tyreek Hill. I would bet that does get some dupes, especially at that salary, all known quantity players. But again, you're getting the defense, getting the kicker. Cody Main at ETR recently tweeted out a thread talking about some overarching data from showdowns. And a lot of times in 5-1s, defense and kicker from the winning team do hit in the onslaught build. So getting those together doesn't happen as much as people want to build or should be building, but it hits at a good rate. So when I see that, that makes me feel better about it. Leaving more salary on the table, seeing no dupes here would feel a little bit better. This one with Bills D would feel a little bit better. All right, this one, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Allen, Bills D, Dalton Kincaid, Jalen Waddle. So you're fading Tyreek. You're fading the RBs. You're getting a wide receiver as a bring back in a 5-1 onslaught build. Keon Coleman, Tyler Bass. And again, 46.9 salary. So that does look pretty good. There you go. Yeah, same page as FF Doom. So there's lineups to be built. I think there's some good ones out there. But again, we'll talk about it more in our 3 takeaways. But let's get to hand building a lineup here for myself. And let's get to the correct slate as well. Make it a large contest. And we're in the Millie Maker, so a lot of money going to first place. So captain, Josh, I think I know the play. I think I've already said what I want to do for the most part here. Josh Allen at captain to me, I think is the move. Hard for me to imagine him not getting there. Look, I'm playing the 20 max tonight. Might throw a few in the Millie Maker on top of that. I feel like, to me, still, it's hard to imagine a world where Allen isn't the captain. It's not what all I'm going to play because I think it's going to be pretty highly owned. But when I do play Allen at captain, I'm going to try to really get unique. But I am going to try to make some Allen at captain be a big part of what I'm doing tonight. And then probably pass catchers around that at captain's going to be what I'll do more. We'll see what Tua's ownership is because I don't feel great about Tua at captain in general. Again, Dolphins D, I really do think the pressure that Josh Allen could see tonight is going to be a problem for him. I'm putting them in the lineup. I think if you have Josh Allen at captain, if you have Josh Allen in a lineup overall, you're going to be less likely to play Dolphins D. And again, the home team here who does have the higher Vegas total, them being in the game in part because of the fact that Josh Allen throws a pick six, fumble. Like, there's a lot of ways they can get there. I think Dolphins D makes sense to me to kind of get that ownership product down and still give us some opportunity to make, a lineup that has the opportunity to actually hit the top kind of ceiling we need. All right, so Tyreek. Let me think about Tyreek's work last week. Tyreek last week, 27 routes compared to 26 for Jalen Waddle. But he was basically, they tried to give him a touch about double the amount of time, which is not too far off from last year. Tyreek Hill also got 5 deep shots in that game. In week 1, Buffalo shut down deep passes pretty well. Negative 1.5 EPA on those plays, but that was, that was Kyler Murray being shit mostly, I think. Hard to not play Tyreek. I think we're just going to eat the chalk on this one. Not a big enough Jalen Waddle believer to not play Tyreek here. MVS could be interesting at the flex. Got 13 snaps. That's a little bit low. That's a little bit low. I would just play cheaper Mac Hollins, honestly. And I think that's probably one of my consideration points here. We're not doing a 5-1 Buffalo build. I'm going to go Mac Hollins as part of this play. The concern for me is really mostly that, he's coming off a touchdown. Maybe the ownership is a little bit higher. 1,600, though, allows us to kind of do whatever we want for these last 2 spots. Let's see how this looks at the very least. Achan's workload, a little bit hard for me to fade. I'm getting to a Buffalo 3-3 if I do that, though. Tua, I'm pretty comfortable fading that one. Cook, I like the red zone usage you got last week. Miami's D in the red zone was really stiff last week. Negative 1.3 EPA on red zone run plays. Softer against the pass. 1.4 EPA on red zone pass plays. Keon Coleman. Let's do it. Keon Coleman gets some red zone looks. Punches at least one in. I think this can work. We've got 11.5 left, so we're going to be leaving some salary on the table no matter what. An Allen double stack. We're saying Tyreek gets production. Achan's right here. Achan's the very obvious click when we're in the spot. This leaves 1,900. Let's run the sim and see how it looks. Part of me wants to leave all the money on the table and just go down to Jeff Wilson for that last spot and to say that the Dolphins' run game production flows through him, and that's my way to get really low owned. But let's see what this team of Josh Allen, Dolphins D, Tyreek Hill, Mac Hollins, Keon Coleman, and Devon Achane gives us. Very low ROI. It never wins. Oh, that hurts. I still think it's not a bad lineup. Shout out Danny here. Amazing show. Very helpful. I appreciate it. I'm glad. This is a fucking bummer. All right, what happens when I put Jeff Wilson in? It's not going to be a high enough projection if I had to guess. I think it's a really fucking unique lineup. I will defend that one. That's hilarious. Just like it, no, it can't possibly win. In a world of DFS where the dumbest shit wins every week, the sim was like, this is too fucking stupid, man. You can't roll with this one. 89% with Jeff Wilson instead. Oh man. I like this lineup. I don't know. I prefer Miami D over Sanders at kicker. If you're doing a full RB fade, I would like Sanders more, but I don't want to do a full RB fade. I want to do Achane. Look, I'm keeping it with a negative ROI. I like this lineup. But yeah, I would say Sanders in a build with no RBs. Miami D in a build where you have Josh Allen, and he's an important part. But tell me you can't win, I'm jamming it. I mean, it just means that nobody's going to play it. But yeah, I'm sticking with this one. This is my build. I don't care if it's a negative 47% ROI. Final team here. Josh Allen, Dolphins D, Tyreek Hill, Mac Hollins, Keon Coleman, Devon Achane. So we got a Josh Allen double here. We got the Dolphins D getting, again, 1 touchdown away. We're basically saying the Dolphins don't do enough on offense in this game. What would be the reason for that? Buffalo's D looked a little bit better in week 1, negative 0.02 EPA per dropback, negative 0.03 EPA per pass. They did get strafed in the run game, though, 0.14 EPA per rush allowed, along with a 1.2 QB rush EPA allowed. That's not going to matter for Tua, but can't defend the run. So playing the Bills D doesn't look that good. Playing the Miami D, they did shut down red zone run plays, didn't deflect a lot of passes that would lead me to think they're going to get a pick. It's just the game theory of it. People are not going to play Miami D with Josh Allen, but there's not, I have to say, there isn't like a real, data reason based on the advanced analytics I feel like would make me want to drive that one. Spags the sim, fuck that ROI. Well, thank you. I would still trust the Sims over me, but that's me. 3 takeaways, though, to build unique lineups tonight, guys. So number 1, we talked about it again. When you see the projections push people towards particular kinds of builds, say that's Dolphins 3 or more. So number 1, if you're going to play those kind of builds, make sure you're really getting unique. Have a player that's not a known quantity in there. Have some low-owned part of the construction. Again, Josh Allen versus the defense, Tua versus the defense, something like that drives your ownership down. But you got to keep that in mind. You're going to get a lot of Dolphins, at least 3 in a lineup, and I think that does reward then playing Bills 4-2s, Bills 5-1s. Even though it's the game total is the game total here. Dolphins are the favorite for a reason. Number 2 would be, we saw in the Sims or the optimizer part of things with the solver. Basically, you're going to get Tua in every lineup. You're going to get Josh Allen in every lineup. You're going to get Tyreek in every lineup. So right away, you want to strip yourself away from the field and what they get automatically based off the math. Fade 1, at least, of Josh Allen, of Tua, of Tyreek Hill. If you leave all 3 out of the lineup, you are going to be on a very unique island. Obviously, as I mentioned enough times here, I think Josh Allen makes a lineup no matter what. It's hard for me to imagine playing a lot of lineups tonight without Josh Allen. But if you were to do that, you're going for the gusto. And that's always the thing for showdowns. It's not always about playing the best play. It's about playing the most unique lineups, so, in general, relative to a still projectable thing. And I would say if you leave those guys out entirely, you're going to do well. But if you leave one out, Tua, leave out Tua is how I'm feeling about it based on the ownership. Number 3 would be, I think Dolphins D gets something done. I think the high blitz rate, Josh Allen really falling apart under pressure, not having safety blanket receivers yet that he fully trusts. I think those are things that lead to a Josh Allen kind of colossal mistake tonight. I think the Dolphins D gets touchdown tonight. I think also, if the Dolphins D didn't get one, I think the Bills D gets one. I think one of the defenses get a touchdown tonight, but I would say just trying to play a little bit more defense than you'd expect would be a good move, whichever defense you like more, because of the fact people aren't going to play him in this kind of game. So there's your 3 takeaways, guys. Of course, I do these videos for every Monday and Thursday, every main slate show, or every big showdown. So check it out. Hit the like button, subscribe. Of course, I do the best I can to show you guys an actual process here, looking at the biggest tools in the space, including me, the biggest but showing you guys major products people use to build the large majority of lineups you're going to be competing against tonight. So that's what I try to do here to add value. Subscribe, hit the join button down below. Both support the show quite a bit, as I'm just an independent proprietor here trying to make it work. Check out Stochastic. Again, 15% off. Link in the description. Use promo code SPLASH. Either way, you can do that. But great packages on there. Great deals. Check it out for yourself. And again, it supports the show directly, which I appreciate. And again, shows them that I matter, whatever, whatever that fucking matters. And the solver, same thing with the solver. Link in the description down below. As I've mentioned, I really can't give it a better cosign than I love Stochastic's tools. I trust Stochastic's tools, especially having been there for so long. But for me with the solver, it's been a different approach. It's been a fun approach, and it's been good for me. So I do think checking out either of them will do you well. But if you want to really have some customization of what you're doing and building lineups, I think the solver is a great tool to add to your process. Use both, honestly. See what crossover and lineups there are between both, and you're probably going to have a lot better lineups if you did that. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at SplashPlayPod. Shout out to all the fine folks who've contributed. I also have to update this for tomorrow before the reading of names, but you too can join down below, get a VIP Discord, and also get my data sheets and that premium video I'm going to be doing after tomorrow's video for $4.99 a month. So $5 supports me as an independent creator and also gets you some VIP stuff. So check it out. Join down below. And your name can be here amongst all these luminaries that I have not updated for this week. I think Beachhead might not be on there. My bad if you're not on there. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at SplashPlayPod. Game responsibly. Do some pick'ems. Actually, is there an underdog promo? Real fast. There might be an interesting underdog promo worth highlighting. Week 2 promo calendar. Today they have Oh, 30% profit boost going for, I guess, in general for every pick 'em. So 30% profit boost token going today on underdogs. Check that out. Promo code SPLASH. $1,000 deposit match at underdog as well if you want a site to gamble on, or, DFS on. play some higher lowers. Of course, I'll build my lineup on stream tomorrow. And I'll do a battle royale on stream tomorrow too, which has been a lot of fun for me. If you've not played battle royales, one of the best formats out there. I think a lot of fun. Finished top 200 last week, and I barely fucking knew what I was doing. So feels good about it. Be back tomorrow, guys. So, hey, I'll see you guys then. Good luck tonight, no matter what slates you're playing, what tournaments you're playing. I'll see you guys soon. So, again, enjoy your days. Good luck. Bye-bye.